Hello, I'm your host, Ismail Chels, and welcome back to Storytime Thursdays. Today's video is audiobook of Chapter 2 of The Rising Tides of the Great Battle for Amerikhanta. Now it's the month of February on the 21st at the province territory of Kansas. Eldon Mayer in the United Union Confederate Front was at their camp on the Amerikanthan frontier. Preparing for battle and protecting the frontier portion of the Great Western Railroad from the armies of the dark. That was because they couldn't let another railway fall to the darkness. If they did, the lands of Amarykhanta would fall into ruin and shadow. Now Generals Lee, Grant, Sherman, and Stonewall Jackson and their troops were joined by Generals Hooker and Hood and their troops. If they do, the lands of Amarykhanta would fall into ruin and shadow. Now Generals Lee, Grant, Sherman, and Stonewall Jackson and their troops were all joined by Generals Hooker and Hood and their troops. So together, they all got into battle formation while Generals Hooker and Hood and their troops got into battle formation on the other side of the tracks. Then they waited for the army of the dark to appear on the horizon. When the army of the dark did appear, Generals Lee, Grant, Sherman, and Stonewall Jackson all gave the order for their troops to charge at the army of the dark, while Generals Hooker and Hood gave the order for their troops to fire the cannons at the army of the dark. During the battle, the United Union Confederate Front was so far successful in defending the Great Western Railroad and fighting against the Army of the Dark. But that was all about to change when Orc Generals Lord Dracovian and Cliffon arrived on the battlefield alongside undead Lord DeMarcus Vandermeer and his army as reinforcements for the Army of the Dark. When that had happened, the tide of battle had turned, and this time in the Army of the Dark's favor. Now the armies of Amerikhanta were starting to be overwhelmed and ruthlessly decimated. Then later during the battle, the armies of Amerikhanta were rerouted and backed against the Great Frontier River, where the army of the Great Darkness was further decimating them with their muskets, cannons, and swords. But before they could fully wipe out the armies of Americanta, the army of General Campbell's Hallway Blackwell, who came down from the north, attacked the armies of the dark from behind. So, for now, the armies of the dark retreated and went back to the Fortress of Shadows in Arizona Senelu. Once they were rescued, Generals Lee, Glantz, Sherman, and Stonewall Jackson all thanked Generals Campbell and Butts for saving them and their armies from the armies of the dark. For now, the armies of the dark retreated and went back to the Fortress of Shadows. Once they were rescued, Generals Lee, Grant, Sherman, and Stonewall Jackson all thanked Generals Campbell and Butts for saving them all from the armies of the dark. Thanks for watching. See you all again tomorrow for audiobook of Chapter 2, Part 2 of the Rising Tides of the Great Battle for Americanta. Like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure to hit that little notification bell so you don't miss a video.